Hi everyone. I am just making sure that this is working. I think it is. I think I did this right. So hopefully everyone will start joining in pretty soon. So I'm a little early, so I'm just going to let some additional people come in. I see like there's maybe 4 or 5 people. Hi, Angela. Trying to get my chair to work. My chair doesn't want to work with me this evening, so I might have to stand up while I do this. But you guys are going to be seeing my screen anyway. Y'all won't see me, just because Facebook doesn't let us kind of go back and forth. So it'll just be this. Anyway, I am gonna go ahead and kind of start. Yeah. Let me take this off. So I am I call myself professional, but I don't know about any of that. But I've been doing cookies now on and off since 2000 and maybe 15. I took some time off, had an additional kid. We moved, that whole fiasco. My husband actually is a Marine, but he is now out of the Marine, so he's a veteran. However, he still works with the military, so he's in and out of the country a lot. So pretty much a stay-home mom, and I decided to do cookies as a way of sending, little trinkets or goodies to the daycare, and it kind of just took off from there. With the cookie cutters, I actually just got my first 3D printer maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and I started looking on YouTube, of course, because that's where everyone goes. And then I stumbled across, I think it's Sam's University here on Facebook, and joined that group, and then it kind of took off from there. So this evening, what I'm going to do is kind of run through real quick of how to make, everyone loves the number cookie with maybe wording to the side or underneath or whatever. And this was something that actually Sam taught us, and then I've kind of just made it a little bit easier for me. So I'm going to be using Cricut Design Space. And then I'm going to use Fusion and Cura. So if you guys have that, we can go ahead and just jump right on in. So anyway, it says my name is LeKeia Dion, and I don't know why, but it took my last name off of there. But everyone calls me Kia, like the car. So if you have any questions or whatever, I'm trying to have my iPad up so I can see if there's any comments or questions. So if you can hear me, if you can't hear me, or whatever, just let me know. So we're going to go ahead and start with the Cricut Design Space. Mind you, I do have a lot of fonts that I've already downloaded. Some of them I have bought from Etsy so that I could use as a commercial purpose. And then others, of course, you find on thefont.com. So I always like to start with whatever number I'm going to be working with. And today I'm just going to be working with the number 4. So type that in. Let's find us a font. I'm going to use ones that are on my system. And I'm just going to scroll down till I found one that I actually like. And this one's kind of chunky. This one's kind of Broadway. I love Broadway, but I don't know how well of a cookie cutter it would make. So let's use this one. This is what? Cooper Black. So I'm going to use that one. It's going to change that. I'm going to bring it down so that everybody can see. We want the cookie cutter itself to remain about a 3.5. I like my cookies a little bit like between a 3.5 and a 3.75 inch. So I'm going to make this box a 3.75. So, well, let's put this in the front. Move it forward. And let's kind of just make it as big as we possibly can. And you can always kind of move everything around. I think Cricut Design Space for me has been really easy to learn. But I know some people had a hard time with it. So we're going to do the number 4. We're just going to spell out 4. I'm not going to do capitalized because I think sometimes it kind of changes things. However, I don't want the number 4 and the letter 4 to be in that same font. I like to be able to use, at least to make it look like I have really pretty handwriting. I like to fake it. So let's use something that has a little bit more, as my daughter would call it, pizzazz. She's an old soul. So kind of play with it until you find one that you like. I normally go with the freestyle. Well, let's do freestyle. Let's change this color as well. I like to know what it looks like with the color. So we're going to choose purple, which is my favorite. We're let's see. We're also going to let's move this spacing in between the letters. So you want to get them as close as you can. Am I spelling 4 right, y'all? It's been one of those days. Okay. So there's 4. I don't know if I'm liking that font. Maybe it's the F that's not, I don't know. It's not doing it for me. I'm not liking it. So, oh, great vibes. That's cute. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Okay, we'll go with this one. All right. So one thing with Cricut Design Space, they did finally give us the option to do an offset. So you want to put your offset in. I kind of like to make mine a little bit smaller. You want to hit apply. So one thing that I learned, and I kept doing it over and over and over again, is that I always try to move both of them together, but they are not together at this point. So you want to kind of highlight both of them, go up here where it says group, and now you can move them together. So we're going to turn this on its side. And we're going to unlock it. We're going to unlock it so we can stretch it. Okay, so now it says 4. If you didn't like it this way, you can most definitely change it. You could change it where it could be underneath or on the other side or whatever. I just prefer it this way. even though I'm really not that crazy about it because I feel like it's kind of taken away from it. So we can kind of play with it here. If you want to make it shorter, you can. If you want to be able to kind of see some of the four, just remember that this white piece is still going to be in the cookie. I don't like having to, I guess, push out like different ones. So all of my cookie cutters, all of this is one cutter, if that makes sense. So it's not like this kind of cuts out and then this will cut out, and because I feel like I break my cookies a lot easier. And maybe I'm just heavy-handed, but that doesn't work for me. Okay, so at this point, I'm just gonna move it here. We know that we have a cookie that is going to be about the size that we want it to. So I'm gonna take that square off, and I am going to do what they call snipping using my snipping tool, and it's just down here in the search bar. Once I do my snipping tool, okay, if it lets me, I'm going to try to get it as close as I can to the actual number and words, and we're going to save it. We're going to save it as 4 with letters, if I can spell. And then at this point, we're pretty much done with Cricut. And y'all, I'm sorry, the Norton protection thing pops up. It's been giving me the blues for the last 3-4 days, but whatever. Okay, so now we're done with that, and here we go again with that. Hi, Amber. So we're going to go ahead and come on over to Fusion, and this is where you're going to actually build this cookie cutter. First thing is you want to create your sketch. So click that. You want this plane, which is going to be what your cookie cutter is going to sit on. So after that point, you want to insert your picture. So you go to insert, you find your picture. There's our 4 with words. Well, that's my old one, but so I'm going to go up here to quick access. You want to then again select the plane all over again. So you're going to select that box all over again. And I move mine around, make it bigger. It doesn't matter. Over here where it says canvas, you want to scroll all the way to the bottom because you want to do a horizontal flip. You don't want your cookie cutter to look in the right direction right now, because otherwise when you go to print it and cut it, your cookie is going to be in the wrong direction. So you want to flip it now. So now that your cookie cutter kind of looks kind of funky, you want to go over where it says canvas and click on the little arrow or triangle, and it's going to give you a drop down and it will show you your canvas. You want to right click on there and you want to calibrate it. What that calibrate is going to do is going to actually set the size of that cookie cutter. So you want to go to the top and you want to go to the bottom, and you want to set your cookie cutter. And I'm going to set mine, even though I said 3.75. I'm going to set mine at 3.8 inches and hit enter. After you do that point, it might expand depending on the size of the actual picture that you put in. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but you can always zoom out of that. At this point, what you're basically going to do is you're going to trace around the outside of this picture, which is going to make the actual cookie cutter itself. So we're going to do a fit point spline, which kind of gives you the option of clicking and then bending. If you did the straightaway, you would have to, I don't know, I guess, I don't even know how that would work if it's a lot. Okay, so once I like to zoom in a lot, and then it'll start bending. All right. And so you're just tracing. You're going to trace, click, and every once in a while, I'll go ahead and hit the little OK or the little check mark, and that just gives you a point of reference. Because if you make a mistake and you haven't hit that arrow or that little check mark, when you hit delete or have to go back, it will delete that entire thing. So if you say, for example, you had done the whole thing and then you messed up at the end and hit delete, you didn't save any of it. It doesn't have a reference point where it can, ask you, pretty much if this is where you want to go back and begin looking at deleting or fixing. So every once in a while, I'll hit that arrow and then I'll just keep going. So hit OK. Like, I don't like how this, I guess, dot point is really, I guess, ugly. We'll put it there. We'll just say ugly. So if you hit select, you can go and select that particular line or that particular arrow. You can select that particular circle. Move it how you want to. Fix it. Make it where it's, tighter against that line or longer or shorter. And then you can go right back to that fit point. Click on it again and then continue going. And mine is doing some crazy stuff right now. Does anyone have any questions as far as what we've done so far? Because I feel like nobody's had any questions. So, does anybody have any questions? No questions? Is anybody still there? Okay, so does it work? Are y'all seeing anything? It says that 4 people are in here. Super helpful. You're awesome. Okay. Thank you, Amber, because I was like, maybe I'm in here by myself. Okay. So we're going to keep going. And like I said, sometimes you'll run into where the line, if you're using this fit point, sometimes you'll find like your line just kind of wants to do its own thing. Like I said, you can always go back to select and kind of move the whole line. You can, or just move a certain point. So I don't like how that looks, and I believe you can single that out, and you can actually delete that whole point if you don't like it. Okay. So let's go back to this point. And y'all, like I said, I'm no professional by a long shot. I just continued to keep watching and kept going over the notes that I had got from the Sam University. I want to say it's Sam Cookie University, but for some reason that sounds wrong. I don't know, but I know that they're on. I think they're in this group. I want to say that at least Sam is in this group. I know I met her at CookieCon, so that was pretty awesome. But anyway, just continue to keep going around. If you find like sometimes I don't like my cookie to kind of have like all this area up here where it's kind of bumpy. So I can go back and say, well, I don't want that point of reference. I don't want that point of reference. And I'll just make a straight line to go from here to maybe here. And I'll say, okay. So just remember that this point here, this piece, and this piece, it's going to basically, if you want to flood that white, or you want to flood it, whatever your base color is going to be, you can most definitely do that, because it's going to be a cookie. Otherwise, you know, you're just going to see the blank surface of the cookie. So now that we're here, you can click on solid, and let me see, it's going to turn blue. You want to click on the solid. That's over on top of where you hit create sketch. You hit solid, and if you hover over your picture, if everything is connected, if it's closed, so that means every dot is connected to each other in its complete closed circle, it is going to turn blue. If it doesn't, that means somewhere one of those dots is not connected to the other. If it turns blue, you can click on it, and that's all right with me, but now I just went way too fast. Okay, so I'm going to back up some. Let me go. Where did I go? No. It's not liking me today. No, I don't want to do that. Okay, so of course today will be the day that I do something that I've never done before. Okay. Anyway, so I messed that up. Let's go back to sketch, because that's not what I was supposed to do. So I'm going to close this off, and now it's closed again. So, of course, we're cookie cutters. We can't just cut with this little thin thing. So you need to offset it. Once you hover over it, it's going to give you that closed circle look, but you want it to start giving you the rim, the cutting edge, the handle. So you're going to click on it, but you want it to offset. You want the red line to go outside of that blue line. So you hit the flip, unless yours is already. Oh, 3D printer. 3D printer that I use, Catherine, is going to be the Ender Pro. So I'm not really that high tech, because I feel like there are some other ones that are out there. So I use the Ender, and I have two of them, but one of them is the version that they're really kind of getting away from. Yeah. And I use filament from Cookie Cat. I've tried other ones, different filament from like Amazon. I guess the cheaper, I don't want to say cheaper, but I have not had any problems with this filament from Cookie Cat. So I've went ahead and ordered like 2 more different reams of the filament from Cookie Cat. So anyway, now that I have this offset position, I want it to be at a 1 millimeter. So I want it really close. You hit OK, but then you're going to go back to offset. But you want the offset to be off the original line that you drew, not the one that they put in there after you put your 1 millimeter. So this one is going to be a 0.5. You hit OK with that one, and then we're going to do one more. This one is going to be offset as well, and it's going to be a 6. So if you scroll out, this is what you have. This is what it looks like. You have your handle is the furthest. Then you have like two different ones that are going to be really close. So let's see. At this point, you don't need the canvas. You don't need to know what the picture looks like, because you've already traced it. This is now when you can go to the solid part. So click the solid. You're going to see where it says extrude. This is where your actual cookie cutter is going to start forming. So you want to hit extrude. When you hit extrude, you want to start with that outer part, which is the brim, the handle. You click on that. I put mine at 6 mm. And I also like to hit this house button so that you can actually see it rising up from it. You see that? And then you hit OK. Now the crazy part is, and I don't know why, but it disappears. You see the body over here. So you want to look at the body. It shows that it's there. If you turn that off, now there's nothing there. So turn the sketch back on. And then you want to hit extrude again. I like to zoom in just to make sure that you're getting in between and you're not missing anything. So you want to get what's right next to this handle. You want to get that middle section. And I put mine at 15. Mind you, these are the cutters that I'm using myself. If I was probably going to sell them to somebody, it would be a lot thicker. But if this is for my own personal use, I don't need it to take, I don't know, 3-4 hours to print. I just need something real quick that I know is going to be sturdy enough for me to get my cookies cut and move on to the next. The final one is going to be the cutting edge. And I like mine to kind of stick out. I think we did the middle one at 15, so let's do 17. And so we can back all the way out at that point. Once you back all the way out, you can now turn the sketch off, because now you know exactly how that looks. Now mind you, to get it to rotate the way that I am showing here, you're going to need to hit shift on your keyboard, well at least shift on my keyboard. And then also the roller ball I'm having to press down on my mouse as well. But now I can see exactly what my cookie cutter looks like. So let's go, let me get back home. So over here under bodies, it now shows body 1, body 2, body 3. If you click on them, hit shift and highlight all 3 of them, you're going to go up here under tools and hit the combine, the combine button, because you don't want it to be 3 bodies. You want it to be all together. Once you do that, all of this over here now, it only says 1 body. Now some people go in and they do fillet. I don't. Like I said, this is really just easy cutter stuff just for me. I don't need all of that stuff. So, but of course, if you're selling this cookie cutter to somebody, you want it to look the best again. You want it to look like one of, what's my favorite one? Kaleidoscope, I think. Or what's another one that everyone uses? Is it Bobby's Cookie Cutters? Love those. And they're purple. So anyway. So now that you have that, if you want to see just exactly what your cookie cutter is going to look like, you can always flip it and turn it over, or you can hit the house button. Sometimes it doesn't do right for me because I don't know which one I'm hitting. Okay, so that one, so this is the bottom. And then you kind of just scroll out. And now you can see what your cookie cutter actually looks like. So I'm using 360 and it's personal. It's not for commercial use. I'm going to save it. And I'm just going to say for with letters. After that, yes, I've reached my max. I am going to export it. Now I export mine because I actually use Cura. Hi Linda. I actually use Cura. So I try to keep all of my stuff together. And let's just save it there. So it's going to export it. Sometimes it takes a while for it to export, and then sometimes it doesn't. Oh no, me too. I got it was 5:30 time. No, I use the Ender. The Ender, I want to say version 2 Pro. Y'all don't get me the line because my husband picked this printer. He just told me it was good. He read reviews on it. So I got it. But I do think it's the Pro. Does this program come with the 3D printer? No. Okay, so Fusion has a commercial and then it has personal. If you go to, I want to say Fusion 360, you have the option of kind of having this personal, not for commercial use, one free for a year. But then after that, you have to pay a yearly subscription, I believe. But I haven't got to that part because I haven't had it but maybe 4 months. So definitely one of those that you should kind of know what you're doing. I feel like I should know what I'm doing. Kaleidoscope cuts. You should definitely know what you're doing before you venture in and buy a whole subscription, because at that point you better be selling some cookies so you can earn that money back. That's all I'm saying. So while it's free, this is a time to kind of either know what you're doing or not. And I think it was Heather that said kaleidoscopes. Yeah, see, I want to call it kaleidoscopes. I don't know. Just blame it on my brain. I'm tired. Okay, so now that you have it in an STL file. So the STL files are the files that if you ever go on different people's websites, you can either buy the actual cookie cutter or they sell the STL. The STL is the file that you need before you can get the G code. So I'm going to explain all of that in a minute. So now that we're done with Fusion, I am going to go into Cura, and I make mine, my cookie cutters this way. Some people use different slicers. I just found that Cura is easiest for me, so this is what I use. I have named my 3D printer Jazz, so I know that if it doesn't say Jazz, it's not going to be set up for my particular printer. So it's going to come up in the file. I'm going to open it. Okay, let me go back. You're going to hit this file here. Wherever you saved it at, it's going to pop up. Mine just always pops up in STL files. So you're going to hit that. You're going to hit open. And at this point, it's nothing. It's just showing you what it's going to look like, where it's going to print at on the actual board. If you want to move it, you can. You have that option of moving it. You have the option of turning it. Some people like to print like maybe 3-4 cookie cutters at a time. If you move it, you kind of have that option to doing so. For me, it just depends on what all I've got going on. So I have built I guess a cookie profile that I know what my layer height and wall thickness would be. And these are pretty much under the dynamic quality. I just changed the printing temp and the build plate temp to fit my particular filament, because depending on what filament you have will determine what printing temp and what build plate temperature you have. And then also your fan speed. So down here it is going to say slice. If it's the way that you want it, the exact location that you want, you don't need to change anything. You're just going to hit slice. Once you hit slice, it's now building the G code that you'll have. I have an SD card because my 3D printer is on the other side of the room. So I have a mini SD card that I kind of just go back and forth with. And once I have it on the file, then it'll tell me that it's ready to, I can eject the actual SD card from my drive and then take it over to the 3D printer and let it print from there. So what it's going to tell you is that this particular cutter is going to take 1 hour and 55 minutes. It's going to be 16 grams of filament for it to print. You can save to disk. If you have a jump drive in, it'll ask you if you want to save it to that jump drive. If you say yes, then it'll go ahead and do that, and then it'll say eject because it knows that you have to take it somewhere else. Or there are some people that have their 3D printer actually connected to their computer. If you do that, then it's nothing but a straight shot, and it'll start printing right then. I just don't do that because I don't have enough room for it at this point. So I'm going to save it to disk. Once you do that, if you didn't change the name of it, like for some reason this didn't change, if you wanted it to say something different, like play 4 letters and then say save to disk, that's what it's going to name that G code. So once it's on your file or your jump drive or your mini SD card, that's what you look for to print this particular cutter. Once you have it saved or whatever, you're pretty much ready to go. If at any time you decide that you want to come back and say you want to print this one and you also want to print, I don't know, I've got some different ones, a coffin, I don't know. you want to print this one and this one at the same time, all you have to do is, I would say 4 and then coffin and then slice it. Of course, it's going to change your slicing time because now you've added a whole nother cutter to it, and it's going to, you know, have to do the G code all over again. But once you get to this point, you're pretty much ready to print. I always I auto level my bed, and sometimes I go ahead and reset to home just so I can make sure that everything is back to at a 0 point. What I found is that sometimes if you don't auto level, your printer can kind of do its own thing. But other than that, I think this is pretty much it. So if you guys have any questions and they're basic, I might be able to help you out. I wanted to show you guys what would happen, like if you didn't make them all one body, but because the way that Facebook is set up, I couldn't do like a face-to-face type and then switch over to screen share. So I will definitely take a picture of what happens if you don't make it one body. On your cookie cutter, you kind of have maybe 2 or 3 little cookie cutters. But that is it. And so I thank you guys, Terry and Heather and Angela. I know you were in here. I appreciate it, my friends. Sandy and Amber, and anybody who, if you have any questions, or if I went too fast or something, let me know. That's it, guys. I appreciate y'all though.